Okay, so for this painting, you're gonna need a plate of some blue, some black, some white, some yellow, and some red paint. And this is acrylic paint too. And then you're gonna need a big brush of some sort, a tiny brush, and then a square brush, or if you don't have a square brush, a round brush is okay. And then some paper towels, and then obviously some water. All right, so for your first step, you're gonna take the big brush and you're just gonna get a little bit of water on it, and then you can dry it off. You just want it to be damp. And then we're gonna put in the white first, so like the white part of the flag, the white stripe. So go ahead and get a good bit of white paint. Then you're gonna go over to the right side of your canvas and just brush it in horizontally, and you're gonna wanna stop about a little bit over halfway. So here's the halfway point, and I'm going just over a little bit. And then I'm just gonna spread out the white about a third of the canvas. So if you divide it into three, this is the middle third that you're covering. Okay, so then after that, go ahead and mix some blue and some white together. Just a little bit of white and mostly blue. And make a good bit of it. And then go up to the top here and paint the blue in the same amount, so just go past half a little bit. And then go ahead and fill in that upper third, and then you're gonna slowly just kind of blend it into the white. So just go over that spot a bunch of times and it'll just blend on its own like that. And then you just do the same with the bottom. So you start on the bottom, and then just go ahead and slowly blend it into the white like that. And the trick is to stay horizontal, try not to do any diagonal brush strokes or anything like that. So just keep a straight line and you'll be good. Okay. After that, you're just gonna go ahead and let it dry, and then we'll put on the C part. All right, so to put in the C part, go ahead and if you have an extra plate or something, this will help you make the circle. If not, you're just gonna have to draw a nice circle on your own, but it's not too hard if you have a plate with you. And then also grab some chalk. This is just chalkboard chalk. You can also do like a pencil if you don't have chalk, and then just go ahead and use that to trace around your plate, or just draw your circle like that. Okay, so I know you can't see it, but I will fill it in here quickly. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is take that big brush again, either get a new one or wash that old one out, get some water on it again, and then this time we're gonna mix some white with the yellow. And depending on your paint, you could just do yellow if you want, but the white kind of helps cover up the blue that's gonna be in the way. Okay, so just take that yellow and go ahead and just color in the circle. All right, so if you want to create a blend with the red, you're going to want to take the yellow a little bit farther on the outside here, so you have excess paint so you can blend, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So go ahead and just extend it out like that. Okay. So then go ahead and just wash your brush out. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're just going to go into the red and it's not going to conflict with the color too much. Okay, so that's fine. I'm just going to go into the red here, and I'm going to create a sharp angle. Actually, you know what? You can put this in with the chalk too. Create the angle where the C is going to stop right here. So I'm just going to do 2 lines like that. Okay. Then I can take my brush, just line it up with that, and go ahead and put the C around it. And so depending on your paint, my paint, the red doesn't cover the blue very well, so all you have to do for that is just add a bunch of layers of it. But be sure that it dries first, because if it doesn't dry and then you keep adding layers, it's gonna start ripping the paint off and it just becomes a problem. So just make sure that it dries and then you can add a second layer of paint. Okay, so if you want, you can leave it like this with like a sharp outline, or if you want to create a blend, go ahead and just brush into the yellow slightly and then just kind of go back and forth a little bit like that to create like a little blend there. So you kind of get like an orange color. Okay. So that's the best we're gonna get until it dries. So I'll probably keep adding more red paint right here as I go through the painting. Okay, so next we're gonna go ahead and put in that island that the trees are gonna be sitting on. So use your square brush, or you could use the tiny brush for this too. We're just gonna draw a line straight out to indicate where that island's gonna be. So I'm gonna use a square brush, and I'm just gonna take black, and we're just gonna be using black for the island and to make the trees too. So we're gonna be using black for a while. Okay, so go over to the edge right here, and it's pretty much just down the middle of your canvas like this. And then just try our best to make kind of a straight line, but it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to make this thicker anyway. And I bring it a little bit into the yellow. If this paint is still wet, you should be okay because the black is it's a pretty strong color, and it should just kind of cover right over the yellow like that. All right. So you have your line, and then you're gonna go ahead and just make some random bumps. Think of like a rocky landscape, or like bushes or something. So just kind of make a little line like that, and then just go ahead and fill it in. And also another little tip is to use a bunch of paint. A lot of times people will just use a small amount of paint, and it just takes you forever to get these steps down. Unless you want to take forever, but sometimes having a bunch of paint on your brush will help you create organic shapes without thinking too hard about it. Okay. All right, so you're gonna go ahead and do that, and all right, so we're gonna go ahead and do the trees actually, sitting on top. We're gonna do the trees, and then we're gonna flip it upside down, and we're gonna reflect the land and the trees. So for the trees, you're gonna flip over to your tiny brush, get some water on it. And actually, I like to create a little puddle in my plate of water. And then from there, I take some paint and I just add it to the puddle. This way it's already thinned out for you. When the paint's thinned out, it helps to make a skinny line because we're gonna be putting in the tree trunks. So go ahead and just make some random little tree trunks like this. And don't worry too much about it being super straight because we're gonna be adding a bunch of branches and stuff you're not gonna notice. And also, if you look in the forest, there's tons of trees that are leaning over anyway, so they're not all standing perfectly straight. Just one thing you want to think about is make sure they're all different heights and also different lengths apart. You don't want them to be all the same because then it just looks like a fence. It doesn't look like a natural forest. Okay, ow. All right, something like that. So now, to add the branches, you're gonna go back over to your square brush. And so this part, it's not too tricky. You might wanna practice on like a piece of paper or like another canvas that you don't care about before you start attempting on your painting. But what you're gonna do is take the square brush, get a little bit of black on it, and then go to the top of one of your trees here. And I just flip the brush this way, and I just kind of tap out a little like, it kind of looks like a chicken foot a little bit, like that. So that's how you start it out. So you get the point and you have like the first layer of branches right there. Then I go down the tree and I kind of just tap around. I use the corner of the brush too to make little marks. And I go ahead and just fill up the trunk like that. Okay, so you fill up the trunk and you leave some spaces too. Then you're gonna go back up to the top and you're gonna start bringing out some branches. So now I'm just tapping out like this, like actually bringing out individual branches. And every time I do, they're getting a little bit longer and longer as it gets towards the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna do the reflection of the trees and this landmass right here. So you're gonna take your tiny brush and you're gonna get a bunch of water on it, do that little puddle thing again on your plate. But this time you want a little bit less paint because you're gonna want it to be kind of transparent on the canvas. So you have it watered down, some watered down black on your brush. And what you're gonna do is just start by reflecting the land. So you're just gonna do these little ripple effects. And also I flipped my canvas upside down. I forgot to explain that, but if you didn't notice, it's flipped upside down. It's a lot easier to do the reflection if you flip it upside down, so. Okay, so all you're gonna do is just make these little marks, and I kind of have, they're like little dips and stuff in them. If that's too difficult, you can always just do a straight line across as well. But think of like little dashes. Okay, and then it's gonna be extra dark. You're gonna want it kind of concentrated at the base of the landmass, like this. Okay, so I'm just doing little marks here and there, and then they start to separate as you move up. So they're nice and concentrated towards the bottom, and then as I'm moving up here, they're starting to separate. And if you want to overachieve, you can kind of match the height of so let's say this hill right here, so it's gonna be a little bit higher, and then here it goes down. So like if you just imagine it sitting on a mirror, then you can just kind of flip it like that. Okay, so that's reflecting the land. So then, to reflect the trees, all you're gonna do is do their trunks again. For the trunks, you can do a straight line. It doesn't look so super great if you do a straight line. So what you can do is just think of like just the branches and just kind of do the same thing that we did here. And just kind of swirl up like that. So it's just like a little squiggle. The straight line can guide you, but I wouldn't make it super solid. So I just kind of did a little dashy one. So here again, just like a little one, just so I know where I'm going. And then I'm just gonna just swirl up the tree like that. Okay, so I'm just reflecting each tree here. So this one's a little bit longer. So this one's gonna go even farther. Just kind of like that. Think of like just water ripples, like when you throw something like a rock in the river, how it just has like the kind of squiggly ripples going on. That's all you're doing. Okay, so then once you do that, you're gonna go ahead and flip over your canvas, and then there you go. It kind of looks like a natural reflection. It's a good little trick to do. Okay, so now that we did that, this part should be dry. So we're going to add some light reflection from our sun onto the trees and the ground here. So I like to use that square brush again. And so since our sun is yellow and it has like some hints of red, that's the color we're gonna make. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow. I'm just gonna grab a tiny bit of red, not too much, something more yellow I think I want in there. Okay, so you're getting orange. And then go ahead and water that down a little bit. Okay, so I'll add some different color variation, but I'm gonna start out with this right now. Then I'm gonna go up to the rocks first, and I'm gonna just kind of brush over the left side of them here. So if you just imagine that the sun is hitting the left side of the rocks, you're just brushing that color over like that. And you could make your paint thicker if you want it to be a little bit more obvious. And another thing you could do too is if you want to make it even brighter, you could add a little bit of white to your mix. And as you can see there, the white makes it pretty bright. So I'm just kind of scribbling around. It's really random. I didn't think too much about it. I just kind of mimicked the shape of the rocks that I made earlier and just kind of brushed it over like that. Okay. So now just go ahead and take the same color. We're gonna do the same thing with the trees, and we're gonna be hitting the left side of it. So if you go down the trunk, just imagine the tree splitting in half. So the right side of the tree is gonna be generally just black still, and the left side is mostly gonna be highlighted. I'm gonna do some overlapping though. So you just apply the reflection the same way you made the trees, so you're just tapping it on there. Then I'm just gonna add a little bit more white to my mix because I just wanna see it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm just tapping it on the left side of the tree, and I'm overlapping it on the right slightly. So I'm putting a little bit on the right, but not as much as on the left. And that's kind of how you get your 3D effect. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and add some more, the same light reflection onto the water. So I'm still just using the same color. I'm actually gonna mix a little bit more white with it on the water, just so it stands out a little bit more. But it's still yellow with a little bit of red and then the white. And then I'm gonna water it down a good bit. Okay, so you can stick with the square brush for this, or you can move to the tiny brush. I notice a lot of times the tiny brush is easier for most people for this part. So, just so you know. If you're using the square brush, you just want to be really light to the touch and you want your paint to be really thin. So the first thing you're gonna do is kind of add this the light paint right across the base, like this. So just do like a little thin line across the base, so now you can see where the water is like hitting up onto the shore. And then just brush over your tree reflection. You can do it in the same way that you made the tree reflection with like the little dashes like this. I'm gonna make mine even a little bit lighter, I think. And then you can kind of like, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and put in the cliff, and we're gonna do that with the square brush. So just make sure it's cleaned out. And the cliff is just black, so this is pretty simple. Just go ahead and grab your black paint. The cliff starts, if you find the middle of the canvas here, it starts a little bit higher than that. So I like to put a little mark there first, just to mark where you start. And then on the bottom, it's gonna end a little bit past half. Maybe like 3/4 across is where it ends. And then you're gonna go ahead and just make a random like bumpy surface, think of rocks and stuff. And you're just gonna connect the two, like that. And then one thing you wanna think about is if you wanna add the hiker, you're gonna want to add a little spot where he's gonna stand. So I think I'll have him stand here. So I'm just gonna flatten this out so he actually has somewhere to stand. Okay, and then from there, go ahead and color it in. You can switch to a bigger brush, or you can just use the square brush. I recommend loading your brush up with tons of paint so you can do this quickly. You don't wanna just do little paint at a time. That'll take forever. So just load it up and go ahead and paint. All right, so now, usually I have a stencil for the hiker, but of course you guys aren't gonna have a stencil, and I lost my stencil, so I'm just gonna go ahead and draw him. Now you guys could draw him or just leave him out, or you could get creative. You could put like a little wolf up here or a bear or something, I don't know. But I'm just gonna go ahead and draw him really quick so you guys could try to follow along. I'll try to leave my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on. That's a pretty good drawing. So then after you do that, move to your tiny brush, or another, since this guy is so tiny, you can always use a Sharpie too to color him in. But I'm just gonna use the tiny brush with the black paint, and I'm just gonna color him in. All right, so there you go. There's a little hiker there. So now the last part of this painting is there's some birds up here. So you can just do the regular like little V birds. They're pretty much similar, but with these ones, I like to do a little flat mark like that. So that's like its body. And then I'm gonna bring out an individual wing on both sides. So there's the right one and then the left one. Just so it's not, so it is like a little V, but it just kind of has that flat area for its body. So I'm just gonna do like 2 more of these. And then maybe just like one little tiny one. Like that. And you can do as many as you want. It's usually preferable to do an odd number. I don't know, it just looks better. Okay, so then there you go. That's the end of that. You can sign your name. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully it was broken down easy enough and you can try it at home.